Okay, let's talk about Islam. The word Islam derives from the Arabic word salem, or the Hebrew word shalom, which means peace, surrender, and obedience. Islam, as I mentioned before, is one of the three Abrahamic religions, one of the three religions of the book. And the main prophet is named Muhammad. He's somebody who was born in the very early Middle Ages in the city of Mecca in Western Arabia, on the Arabian Peninsula. And he received a revelation directly from God in the year 610. Muslims believe that the word of God was revealed to Muhammad by the archangel Gabriel, and important for Islamic traditions, the language that they used was Arabic. And so we are going to focus on architecture since we're talking about sacred spaces, but when in the Quran, the Muslim holy book, calligraphy becomes an important artistic tradition because it is the holy language. It is the language that Gabriel used with Muhammad. And we should also be clear too that Muhammad, unlike the figure of Jesus for Christians, Muhammad is considered a prophet. There is no claim to divinity himself, but instead he is a prophet as Abraham is, as Moses is as well. And so the Quran, the holy book, describes that relationship between an almighty and all-knowing God and his creations. It provides guidelines for how to live, frameworks for a just and equitable society. And Mecca soon becomes more and more, there are more and more followers of Islam in the Arabian Peninsula. And Mecca becomes an important place of pilgrimage for Muslims, and it still is today. Remember, pilgrimage is a kind of religious journey to a holy site, and the Kaaba in Mecca, this dark cube that I'm showing you in these images here, this is the principal shrine or the principal goal of the pilgrimage, which is called the Hajj, Hajj. It really represents the center of the Islamic world. You can see that it is a cube draped with this black textile. And I know it's hard to see here, but in that gold, that is gold thread embroidered with verses from the Quran. Arabic is also, there are different kind of cursive forms of Arabic that are so artistic and abstracted, so they really work well as decorative embellishments. And what I'm showing you are photographs from the Hajj where you can see thousands and thousands and thousands of people who come to visit the Kaaba. Now, I think on your empty outline, I put aniconism and minaret, but let me explain this a little bit here. Of course, like Jewish and early Christian art and architecture, Islamic art and architecture is also influenced by Rome, and then a later Christian empire called the Byzantines. Don't worry about them now, we'll talk about them later. And what we see in Islamic art is a lack of figuration, what is called aniconism. Think about the word icon or image. So it is anti-image. We won't see portraits of the Prophet Muhammad, for example, but instead we'll see calligraphy and interest in complex patterns and geometry. Mosque architecture, also too, just like the architecture of stupas or Greek temples or churches, has its own specific terminology. The only one I want you to worry about here is minaret. A minaret is a small, slender tower on the outside of a mosque that is used to project the call to prayer. In the Middle Ages, it would be somebody walking to the top of the tower, singing out, calling out that call to prayer, and recordings are used today. And if you're familiar with the Islamic Center in Fort Collins, it's really just right off campus on Lake Street. I encourage you after this unit to bike by the Islamic Center on Lake Street, and you will recognize some of these Islamic architectural elements in that building as well. All right, the mosque that we are going to look at, and the mosque is the gathering place for Muslims. It often has areas for religious ceremonies. It often has areas for more like a community center. And mosques are designed to support and guide the prayer that the faithful do 5 times per day. And that prayer is done facing Mecca. So depending on where a mosque is, you are aligned to a different cardinal direction, depending on where you are in relation to Mecca. We are looking here at the Isfahan Mosque in Iran. It was added onto, built over many different centuries, and it is a richly decorated complex that includes mosques, it includes courtyards. Here we're looking at this outer courtyard. It's important for the faithful to partake in ritual cleansing and washing before entering the mosque. And when you were in a warm enough climate, that can be done at a fountain outside. The interior decoration of this mosque is very typical of this aniconic decoration. We see surface after surface covered in these beautiful glazed tiles with these abstract floral designs. Again, I know it's hard to see, and actually I don't think this is a good example here, but there are bits of calligraphy from the Quran. We don't see any depictions of the figure of God. We do not see any depictions of Muhammad, but instead we have a focus on abstract geometric designs, this aniconic pattern. And you guys can probably hear the train and the construction site outside the window here. I'm going to shut the door. That's just how it goes sometimes, right? Okay, I want to end here talking about sites that are sacred to multiple religions, or including one site too that is built that is a truly ecumenical site. But let's start here with the Dome of the Rock, and I will finish up here in a final video. But let's just start here with the Dome of the Rock. So we have examples of buildings being repurposed over and over and over again. We think about commercial buildings in Fort Collins, right? It's this restaurant, then it's this store, then it's this bar. And we have this for sacred architecture as well. For example, the Parthenon on the Acropolis in Athens was utilized as a Christian church in the Middle Ages. And this is quite common for these older Greek and Roman temples to become Christian churches later on. The Parthenon, then later, Athens is invaded by Ottoman Turks who are Muslims, and then the Parthenon becomes a mosque. And so this is all part of the evolution of architecture. The Dome of the Rock is a little bit different because this gives us a unique opportunity to discuss how people of different religions have had to coexist because of the incredibly sacred nature of this site. And so we see how Jews, Christians, and Muslims have all used this site for different purposes. It is this is not a mosque, but the Dome of the Rock is a shrine that is built on this big platform in Jerusalem. This is what is called Temple Mount. And to Jews and Christians, this site is thought to be the place where Adam was created and where Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son. Furthermore, it gets a little bit more complicated here. This is also the site that was occupied by Solomon's temple. And alongside the temple of Herod, Solomon's temple was the most important Jewish synagogue in the Holy Lands. Later, and that temple was also destroyed too. I'm getting ahead of myself. The only thing that remains of that temple is the foundation, this big Temple Mount, this foundation where the Dome of the Rock is constructed. It is also, though, for Muslims, the place where Muhammad was believed to ascend to heaven during what's known as his miraculous night journey. So there's a lot of different symbolic, important meaning to this site. The Umayyad dynasty, don't stress about remembering that, but the Umayyad dynasty is one of the first Islamic dynasties in the world. And they take over the city of Jerusalem in the 600s, and they decide to build a shrine here. And what's interesting is some of these elements that we have, these are elements we might find on a church, like a dome, or a larger synagogue as well. We also see rows of columns on the outside, some freestanding columns, and some of these columns here that are stuck to the wall. These are called engaged columns. And we might find columns like that on a Greek temple, on a church, on a synagogue. It's not always the style that distinguishes the religion, but it is instead, we see a lot of the same forms, the same motifs, the same approach to decoration in a lot of different religious structures. On the inside of the shrine, we see the bare rock where Muhammad was believed to ascend to heaven during his night journey, and then this walkway. Notice that this is a central plan building here, so not long like most churches, but a central plan. And so there's a walkway around here, and then every surface, again, covered with an iconic decoration. And this is not painting, this is not ceramic tiles, but this is mosaic. So teeny tiny pieces of semi-precious stones, gold leaf, glass, mother of pearl, to set in to create these patterns of all of these kind of leafy plants. Here again is another great use of calligraphy. Text from the Quran being used as the text from the Holy Book, but then also too it has this kind of beautiful aniconic image to it as well that complements the botanical designs. And I think at this point we're going to save Hagia Sophia, and then the Rothko Chapel, we're going to save that for the final video so that I don't run out of my free time on Screencast-O-Matic here. All right, one more short video to go.